Raven Studio.
My neighbor never blinked, but his reflection did. The first time I noticed it, I wasn't even trying to. I was standing in my kitchen, barefoot, staring into the fridge like it might explain why moving alone felt so quiet. The microwave clock was flashing because I still hadn't figured out how to set it. Outside, my street was dead. Suburban dead. The kind of dead that makes you feel like you're the only person awake in the world. Then I looked up, just an idle glance through the front window. Across the street, in the house with the dark shutters, there was a man standing in the front window. Not sitting, not leaning. Standing perfectly upright, hands at his sides, facing out like he was waiting for something to arrive. I remember thinking, okay, weird. But maybe he's checking the weather. Maybe he's waiting on someone. Then I realized something else. He wasn't doing any of the tiny things people do without thinking. No shifting weight. No scratching his face. No turning his head. He was so still that my brain kept trying to turn him into a coat rack. I checked the time. 11:17 p.m. And that's when I saw it. The streetlight hit his window just right, turning the glass into a faint mirror. I could see a soft reflection of his face overlaid on the darkness behind him. Only the reflection moved. It blinked. Quick, normal, human. But the man behind the glass didn't. He didn't blink. He didn't flinch. Just stood there, eyes open, staring through his own reflection, like the glass wasn't even there. And for one sick little second, in the reflection behind his head, I saw a second shape, like someone was standing close behind him in the room. Too close. A face leaned into the reflection, half visible, and smiled like it had been waiting for me to look up. My name is Evan. I moved into Maple Hollow because I got a decent job and a decent deal, and I wanted a decent life. And the first week, the neighborhood delivered exactly that. People waved, lawns were trimmed, porch lights clicked on and off at the same time like it was coordinated. The only odd thing was the house across the street. It looked normal in daylight, clean siding, good roof, nice porch. But the windows always felt watched. Not in the dramatic way. More like the way you feel when you realize a security camera is angled directly at you, and you can't stop thinking about it. The next night, I told myself I wouldn't check. I checked anyway. There he was. Same spot. Same posture. I stared harder, waiting for the aha moment, like a TV flicker or a shadow passing inside. Nothing. Then the reflection blinked again. Not the man. The reflection. And this time, it didn't just blink. It looked like it focused, like it found me. And the smile came back, small, controlled, almost polite, like a person pretending not to enjoy a secret. I stepped away from my own window and whispered out loud, to no one. Okay. Nope. But even as I said it, my eyes kept flicking back, like if I looked away too long, I'd miss something that mattered. That's what scared me the most. It wasn't just creepy, it was interesting. And that's how it gets you. The next morning, I forced myself to be normal. I grabbed my mail, I walked out like I wasn't a grown adult losing sleep over a stranger's window. Mrs. Delaney, robe, slippers, the whole nine, was dragging a trash bin back up her driveway. "Morning," I said. She gave me a nod that belonged to someone who's lived here long enough to stop pretending mornings are good. I jerked my chin toward the house across the street. "Hey, do you know the guy over there? Tall, older." She stopped moving. Not dramatically, just paused, like her body did it before her brain could stop it. "That's Harlan," she said after a beat. "Harlan," I repeated, testing the name out loud. "He always, stands in the window at night?" Her eyes cut to me fast, sharp. Then her face smoothed over. "He keeps to himself," she said, and the sentence ended there like a door closing. I tried to laugh it off. Just thought it was kind of a thing. Mrs. Delaney leaned a little closer, voice softer. "If you're smart, you won't make it a thing." Then she turned, rolled her bin into the garage, and shut the door like she didn't want the conversation hanging out in the open air. Later that afternoon, I caught Chris, guy 2 houses down with a smoker grill and a dad energy posture. "Hey," I said, casual. Question. "Harlan across the street. He okay?" Chris kept tending the grill like his hands needed something to do. "Harlan's fine," he said. That's not an answer. Chris exhaled through his nose. "You see him at night?" I didn't say anything, and that was enough. He finally looked at me, and his expression changed. Like he wasn't amused anymore, like he was calculating. "Listen," he said, "I'm going to give you one piece of advice. And I'm not trying to freak you out. I'm trying to keep you from making it worse." "What?" I asked. Chris's voice dropped. "Don't wave at him." I blinked. "Why would I wave at him?" "Because you're a normal person," he said. "And normal people see someone staring and they do a polite little, 'hey,' so it's not weird." He swallowed. "And sometimes it waves back." "He waves back?" Chris didn't correct me. He just said, very quietly, "Don't give it your attention. Attention is expensive." And then he turned back to the grill like we weren't talking about anything. That night, I tried to stay away from my front windows. I put on some dumb show. I cleaned a counter that didn't need cleaning. I even brushed my teeth earlier than usual, like that would reset the day. Then my phone buzzed with a calendar notification I didn't remember setting. I didn't walk to the window like a horror movie idiot. I drifted there like it was gravity. Across the street, the front window was darker than usual, but Harlan was there. Still. I could make out the line of his shoulders, the pale oval of his face. And then the porch light on his house clicked on, just once, like someone tapped a switch and let go. The sudden light made his features clearer. His eyes were open, too open. His mouth was relaxed, but not in a peaceful way. More like his face had forgotten what expression to hold. I stood behind my blinds, barely breathing. The reflection blinked, and I felt it again, that sense that the reflection was the thing doing the watching. The man behind the glass didn't look alive. The reflection did. I don't know why I did it. Curiosity? Stubbornness? the stupid little part of me that hates not knowing. I stepped out onto my porch. Cold air hit my skin. I didn't wave. I just stood there, like maybe being outside would change the angle, prove it was just light and glass and my own paranoia. Across the street, Harlan's head turned slightly. Not toward me, more like toward a sound behind him. And then his mouth opened. His voice carried faintly through the glass, dry and thin. Evan. My stomach dropped. I didn't answer. I couldn't. He said it again, slower, like he wanted to make sure I understood it wasn't a guess. Evan. My throat tightened. I managed. How do you know my... His voice cut in, sharper than before. Don't stand in the dark. The porch light above me was off. I hadn't turned it on. I flicked it on with a shaky hand. Harlan's face didn't change, but the reflection smiled. Harlan's lips moved again, and this time he sounded tired. It likes the shape of you, he said. And then, like he wasn't talking to me anymore, like he was quoting someone else, he added, "It always starts with the eyes." The porch light across the street snapped off. His window went black. For a moment, I only saw my own reflection in the glass of my door. And my reflection stayed a half second behind me. Just enough to make my skin crawl. I didn't sleep. I sat on my couch with every lamp on, pretending brightness was a lock. Around 2 a.m., I finally stood up to get water. And that's when I heard it. A soft tap. Not on my door. On my front window. One gentle knock, like someone trying not to wake the house. I froze so hard my shoulders hurt. Another tap. And then a sound so close it felt like it was inside the room with me. A whisper. Evan. My mouth went dry. The whisper wasn't coming from outside like a normal voice. It was flattened, thin, like it was sliding along the glass. Wave, it said. I didn't move. Another knock. Wave. I backed away from the window, heart punching my ribs. I whispered, no. And the thing outside, whatever it was, made a sound like a small laugh. Then nothing. No footsteps, no retreat, no normal ending. Just silence. Like it had stepped back and waited. I stood there for a full minute before I forced myself to look. The street was empty. But in my own window, in the faint reflection of my lit living room, there was a shape behind me, tall, still. And when I turned around, there was nothing there. When I looked back at the glass, the shape was gone too, like it had only existed where reflections do. The next day I went online, not in a dramatic ancient curse way, in the normal way you do when you're trying to prove you're not losing your mind. I searched the address across the street, old listings, property records, anything. Most of it was boring. Then I found an obituary, not for Harlan, for Martha Harlan, his wife. The photo showed a woman with kind eyes and a small smile that made her look like she knew more than she was saying. The date was years back, and the detail that made my hands go cold was tucked into the service notes, like it didn't matter. She passed at 11:17 p.m. I stared at that line until my vision blurred. That night wasn't random. That time wasn't a habit. It was a mark, a stamp. I went straight to Chris's house and knocked hard enough that he answered, looking annoyed, until he saw my face. She died at 11:17, I said. Chris's jaw tightened. Yeah, he said quietly. So what? Every night at 11:17 he just, what? Relives it? Chris didn't answer right away. He looked past me at the street, like he didn't like standing with his back to anything. Then he said, the night she died, Harlan called 911. I waited. Chris rubbed his palm on his jeans. He told dispatch he'd seen her in the mirror, he said. Standing behind him, smiling. He turned around and she wasn't there. He looked back and she was closer. I felt my stomach twist. They came, Chris continued. Paramedics, police, all of it. And after that, the house got reflective. He glanced at me. You ever notice how some houses feel warm even when they're empty? He asked. I nodded, barely. Chris's voice dropped. That house feels like it's watching itself. I swallowed. Why doesn't anyone do anything? Chris let out a short breath. Because the last time someone tried, it noticed them. I wish I could tell you I made a smart choice after that. I didn't. That night, I told myself I'd just walk up to the house. Just look at the front window close up in daylight angle. Just confirm something concrete. It was already dark by the time I crossed the street. The porch boards creaked under my shoes like they were complaining. The front door was unlocked. Of course it was. Inside, the air smelled old, dust and stale fabric, with a faint coppery note that reminded me of pennies and cold metal. I stepped into the living room, and immediately I understood why people didn't like talking about this place. There were mirrors, not one or two decorative ones. Dozens. Framed, unframed, tall, short, hung in rows like someone had been collecting angles. And in front of the main window was a chair. Placed perfectly, centered, facing outward. A watcher's chair. My phone light trembled across the glass surfaces. My own reflection multiplied, stretched, fractured. Some mirrors reflected me normally. Some reflected me slightly late, like video buffering. And one mirror, low on the wall, the kind a kid might look into, showed the room behind me. Except in that mirror, someone was standing where I wasn't. A tall silhouette. Motionless. Close. I spun around. Nothing. I turned back. The silhouette remained. It didn't move. It didn't blink. It just occupied the space behind my reflection like it had always belonged there. On a small table beside the chair sat an old cassette recorder with a strip of tape across it. Handwriting, shaky, cramped. If you've been seen, play this. I hesitated long enough to feel my pulse in my fingertips. Then I hit play. Static. A man's voice, thin and exhausted. If you're hearing this, don't panic. Panicking makes you predictable. A pause. A swallow. My name is Harold Harlan. I stared at the chair. I'm recording this because talking to people didn't help. the voice said. They hear mirror and they think I'm crazy. But you're here, so you know it's real. The tape hissed softly. It doesn't live in the mirror, Harold whispered. The mirror is just where it practices. My grip tightened on the recorder. It learns faces, he said, expressions, habits, timing. It learns what you look like when you're tired, when you're lying, when you're alone. His voice got quieter. And then it waits for the moment you stop paying attention to yourself. The tape crackled again. I tried covering everything. Sheets, blankets, paint. It didn't matter. Any dark glass works, windows, phones, TVS. He sounded like he was shaking. It wants you to acknowledge it. A wave, a nod, a smile back, something small, a breath. Something that says, I see you. And then, very softly, once you say that, it starts acting like you. The tape clicked off. Silence flooded the room. Then, from somewhere in the mirrors, I heard a faint tap, like a fingernail testing glass. I backed away from the table. My phone light swept across the mirrors. Every reflection showed me, but not the same me. One had my head tilted the wrong way. One had my mouth slightly open like I was mid-sentence, except I wasn't speaking. And one showed me standing completely still, eyes unblinking, with a faint smile starting. My chest tightened. No. The mirror with the watcher's chair caught my attention. In it, the chair wasn't empty. Someone sat there, tall, still, facing the window. The silhouette didn't move, but the smile did. It grew slowly, like a muscle warming up. I turned around. The chair was empty in the real room. I looked back at the mirror. The seated figure's head turned, just a fraction. Not toward me, toward the mirror itself, like it was aware of being watched. And then, in the mirror only, the figure lifted its hand. Not a wave. Not yet. Just a small, patient motion, like, come closer. My legs locked. Every instinct screamed, leave. I turned toward the front door. The door wasn't where it should be. Not missing like a cartoon. Not vanished. Just wrong. Like I was suddenly facing a wall with the same color paint. I blinked hard, thinking my eyes had failed. My phone light hit it again. Wall. My breathing turned shallow and ugly. In the mirrors, my reflections were starting to sync up. Not with me. With each other. Like a group learning choreography. And behind some of them, that tall shape stood closer than before, head slightly cocked, studying. My phone screen went dark. Battery full, no reason. Then it lit back up by itself. Front camera, my face filled the screen. Sweat. Wide eyes. Fear. And on the phone screen only. My reflection blinked slowly. I didn't. It smiled the tiniest bit and whispered, so faint I almost thought it was my own breath. Better. I don't remember choosing a direction. I remember moving. I shoved myself toward what I thought was the hallway. The house felt wrong in the way dreams feel wrong. Spaces too long, corners too close. Then my shoulder hit something wooden, a door frame, real. I grabbed it like it was a lifeline and pulled. Cold air slapped my face. I stumbled onto the porch. The street was normal. My house sat across from me, bright, safe, stupidly ordinary. I ran. My feet hit pavement. My breath burned. My hands shook so badly I dropped my keys once and had to snatch them up like something was chasing my fingers. I got inside and slammed the door. I stood there, back against it, trying to convince my body to calm down. And for a moment, it worked. The house was quiet. No tapping. No whisper. Then I heard a tiny sound behind me. Not a voice, not a knock. The faintest creak, as if someone had shifted their weight in my living room. I didn't turn. I walked, slowly, like a person trying not to startle a sleeping animal, toward the hallway mirror near my coat rack. The one I'd never really looked at before. I stood in front of it. My reflection stared back. My face, my eyes, my shaking hands. For a full second, nothing happened. Then my reflection's smile started. Not wide, not monstrous. Just slightly too calm. Like it knew something I didn't. I whispered, "Stop." My reflection blinked, and I realized, with a nauseating certainty, that I hadn't blinked in a while. Across the street, at exactly 11:17, Harlan's window glowed faintly. A figure stood there, tall, still, facing outward. But the silhouette, it wasn't his anymore. It had my shoulders, my stance, my shape. And in the streetlight's thin reflection, the face in the glass blinked, slow, satisfied, like it had finally gotten the timing right. The figure raised its hand, not to wave, just two fingers pressed gently to its lips. A quiet reminder. Keep it to yourself. And in the black screen of my turned-off TV, my reflection held that same little smile, like it was practicing how to wear me.